Category 4 Hurricane Beryl is headed towards the Windward Islands. Good Sunday evening, I'm Mike Nasa with the latest video update on this very powerful and dangerous major Hurricane Beryl. Here's a look at the latest particulars as of 5 p.m. from the National Hurricane Center, and Hurricane Beryl is centered at about 11.1 north, 56.5 west, and that centers the hurricane about 350 miles east-southeast of St. Vincent, or 250 miles southeast of Barbados, headed straight west-northwest now at 18 miles per hour, so a little bit more of a northerly component than it had yesterday, and a little bit slower, and the pressure 960 millibars as recorded by the Air Force Recon flying out there. We'll have another plane in there later tonight. Maximum sustained winds 130 miles per hour, making Beryl an extremely dangerous Category 4 hurricane, the strongest hurricane we've ever seen in the month of June, catching June by just one day. Now the forecast track does continue it towards the Windward Islands and over the islands later tonight and early on Monday. We do have a hurricane warning in effect for the island of Tobago, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and Barbados, and all of those Grenadine islands that I talked about on yesterday's video that are very, very susceptible to being impacted by the core of a Category 4 hurricane, no doubt. If you are in Trinidad, Tobago, Grenada, any of these southern Windward Islands, you need to be on alert as Hurricane Beryl heads your way. We do have a tropical storm watch in effect now for the southern coastline there of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, with the expectation that as Beryl moves through the Caribbean as a major hurricane, she could bring tropical storm conditions to the south coast of Hispaniola. Jamaica, nothing for you yet as of 5 o'clock Sunday night, but that will be changing. Here's the latest satellite imagery of Hurricane Beryl. Look at that. Just a classic, disastrous looking hurricane for wherever that eye goes over. We can hope that because it is a tight storm, perhaps it will avoid islands and you won't get in the core of strong winds, but if you do, it's going to be really, really bad with a Cat 4 hurricane. Now, here's another look at the satellite again. Just look at that buzzsaw headed straight towards the islands, west-northwest component to its track, and as that continues, we're going to have impacts. Now, Hurricane Beryl is one of only 3 major hurricanes that we know of on record in the Atlantic Basin during the month of June. We had Hurricane Audrey in 1957, which killed hundreds of people in areas there of the western Louisiana coastline. And then we had Hurricane Alma in June of 1966 near Florida. Both were Category 3s. Beryl is a Category 4. So it is the strongest June hurricane we've ever seen on record, and records go back to 1851, although they're not as reliable until about 60 years ago or so. Nevertheless, a very, very rare event with Hurricane Beryl. We also wanted to note that the danger with this hurricane is not just the maximum sustained winds, but in higher elevations, we could have a lot of problems. In higher elevations, the wind speed could be 30% higher than at the surface. So let's say it moves in with 140 mile an hour winds, you could have gusts well over Category 5 intensity in the higher, more mountainous, hilly elevations. So again, we don't know where that center is going to cross, but wherever it does, we could have a lot of problems with it. Now here's the Barbados radar, and we don't see the eye coming into view yet, but it will eventually move through, and we'll watch that core tonight. Wherever it goes is where that worst weather will be. Here's another look at the visible satellite imagery. What a beautiful hurricane, but very, very dangerous. And again, it looks like the intensification may have slowed down, but it's already a Category 4 hurricane. So what are you going to do about it? You got to be prepared. High storm surge is also a threat with this thing. We're going to have storm surges, as I mentioned, 6 to 9 feet with waves on top of that. So if there's any harbors there, low-lying areas on these islands, stay away from the water. You do not want to be on the beach with a Category 4 hurricane slamming into you. I should note as well that the upper level wind shear is very favorable over the top of it. As it moves through the Caribbean, it could get in a little more unfavorable environment, but it is expected to remain a powerful hurricane, probably at least a Category 2, through the time it heads towards the Yucatan Peninsula. Now these are the European ensemble models, and they do kind of show that there is the potential that it might find some weakness down the line and head more towards northern Mexico or even the Texas coast. But that's so far away, and right now it definitely seems like if you're further south, you're at greater risk. But if you're on the Gulf Coast, watch it. It's a major hurricane and something you really, really want to keep tabs on as time goes by. Again, in Barbados and Grenada, it's a beautiful night in Grenada. The temperatures are in the 80s. It's sunny, it's beautiful, it's tropical. You have maybe 15, 20 mile per hour winds that give you that nice breeze when it's hot out. You would have no idea that such a monster is headed your way, but she is. We do have another system out there. It's a new tropical depression, and we have tropical storm warnings there towards areas of Puerto Veracruz down there in the Bay of Campeche. This is expected to become a tropical storm, and the next name on our name list is all the way down now to the sea name, Tropical Storm Chris. So this should become Chris and remain a very weak, short-lived storm, but head there towards areas of Mexico. So again, we are watching the tropics with a very powerful Category 4 hurricane barreling towards the Windward Islands. All preparations to protect life and property need to be rushed to completion. I'm Mike Naso. I'll be back with continuous coverage of this major hurricane, Hurricane Beryl, headed towards the Windward Islands at Category 4 intensity.